right, the webinar started and the people are starting to come in, babe. We're good to go. Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Dwayne Ellis, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is that it's been almost 6 years since I felt the need to use any mind-altering drugs to change the way I feel. Recovery has awarded me the opportunity to live my truth, and I'm proud of it today. I want to welcome everybody to the We Do Recover, Connecting with Peers Receiving Medicated Assisted Treatment, aka MAT, October webinar facilitated by Beverly Ragland. And I want to go over through a few housekeeping rules before we get started. Those who stay for the entirety will earn 1.5 CEUs. When submitting your CEUs, you want to keep up with the month, the topic, and the panelists. So just a helpful suggestion, if you could just get a spreadsheet and just, as you have a CEU training, keep up with the month, the topic, and the panelists, which in this case, the topic would be We Do Recover, and the panelist is Beverly Ragland. So it's almost that time to submit your CEUs. You'll be getting a link from Laurie Tolbert nearing the end of the year. You still have time. And you may receive a certificate, but if you don't, you'll receive a follow-up email thanking you for your participation. You'll be muted for the entirety of this presentation unless you're called on. In that case, I'll unmute you and you'll show your video and you'll be able to engage and share your experience. But things are a little bit different because it's a webinar and not a meeting. You could raise your hand if you have a question. You could throw it in the chat if you have a question, or you could use the webinar Q&A box if you have a question. Without further ado, I think that's it for my housekeeping rules. I want to introduce the CARES Warm Line Program Manager, Beverly Ragland, and thank you for being our facilitator today.
You're welcome. It's an honor. Good morning, everybody. And this is our webinar, and it is interactive. Welcome, welcome. I'm Beverly Ragland, and I'm your presenter today. I'm going to introduce myself formally after we watch this short video. But before we start the video, I want to thank you all for being here. This is really our webinar, and again, it is interactive. I'll be asking questions, so use the chat to respond. This is important because this is an awesome opportunity to learn from each other how we support our peers and each other. Dwayne, will you start the video now? I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Here we go. Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
just calling. I've been having a really hard time. I've been using drugs and I really want to stop.
Is this the CARES Warm Line? Great. I'm having a hard time. I need somebody to talk to. I just need somebody to listen to me.
What I do on the Warm Line is I give back. I carry the message and I give experience, strength, and hope through my own lived experience. I'm so honored to be able to talk to people that have the same struggles as I do. The Warm Line is self-gratifying because when you start out a call that somebody is really struggling, when you can bring that call to a peaceful place and they're laughing and they're cutting up before you end the phone, that is so self-gratifying to me.
We're hope dealers. You know, we give hope to people that need hope. For some people that's checking in every day. For some people that's listening to our experiences. And sometimes it's just being heard. The most important thing that we do is listen. We hear you because we listen. I'm here to listen. They can talk about anything they want to talk about, and I want to be here to support them, meet them right where they are, and bring words of encouragement to them, and just most of all, let them know that they can make it through whatever they're going through.
So working on the Warm Line actually gives me a chance to support people, brings more purpose to my life and my recovery. I get to hold a sacred space for people. I never dreamed that the darkest and scariest places of my life would bring me to where I am today, helping other people.
We are recovery peer coaches, and we just offer support and encouragement and resources for people who just want connection, or we have callers that want to just call and share victories with us, or grief, or they just someone to be with them.
When people call in, I am the recovery coach that they talk to, and I'm here to give people support, hope, empathize with them, and encourage them on whichever recovery path they're on.
We've been where our peers have been, and that's what makes it so appealing for our peers in recovery. The Warm Line is available for any peer to call and know that they have someone that's been just where they are.
It's okay. You want to talk about it? Okay, go ahead. I'm here to listen.
I want to stop. I want to stop for my family, for my friends, but I don't know how.
It's very important that peers have somebody with lived experience that they can reach out to. This line is so valuable to the recovery community because we have confidentiality. They're not having to face nobody. They're just on the other end of the phone, because it takes a lot of courage to even take a step to pick up a phone and call anybody. And to know that they're going to get somebody on the other end of the line with lived experience, that is amazing, because somebody that have been through some of the same things that I have been through breathe life into me. And I call it breathing life into somebody else, giving back to somebody else the gift that has been given to me, which is the gift of recovery.
Good evening, Kids Warm Line. Michelle speaking.
I'm on drugs, ma'am, and I need some help.
You're talking to a woman that's in long-term recovery, meaning I haven't used any mind-altering substance over 19 years. Every time I think about what I lived through and how somebody else may be going through what I might have got to go through, I want to be there to support them. I know I can live my recovery out loud and relate to them. I want to be there to let them know that they're going to be able to make it through and be that light in someone's dark place.
In 2016, over 63,000 Americans have died from drug overdoses. In Georgia, opioids have been predominantly the driven factor behind the spike in drug overdose deaths. In 2015, opioids were the cause of 88% of all overdose deaths in Georgia.
I started to think about the CARES Warm Line after speaking to a reporter. He was doing a story on a young man who was addicted to heroin and opiates. And he told me the young man progressed in his addiction and he ended up going to prison. He was 22 years old when he got out of prison. He called me and told me that the young man had passed away. When he got out, he didn't have any social support. He couldn't find a job because he had a felony. And so he started using again. And he chewed on a fentanyl patch the next day and died. I just sat down in my chair really hard and I thought, not another one. A 22-year-old young man with his whole future ahead of him is gone. And he didn't have any reason to be. He had every intention of doing the right thing. He just had nobody to help him or connect with or to tell him a story or to hear what his pain and his isolation felt like. After that, I thought we should have a phone number where people can call and get connected.
The CARES Warm Line is kind of groundbreaking in that there's never been a recovery phone support for people in recovery in the state of Georgia. We're the first of its kind. Some words of encouragement that I like to give some of the callers that call the Warm Line are: you're not alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. We're here and we care.
This is the CARES Warm Line. This is Bertrand. What may I call you?
I was just wondering if I could talk to somebody. The past few months have just been pretty hard.
Let's take a couple deep breaths together. Okay. On 1, 2, 3, let's breathe in. Being a peer specialist, what that means to me is I'm able to use my experiences, the good and the bad, to let people know that they're not alone. We use our experience to empower people. We made it to the other side. We give hope that you can make it to the other side.
I'm so sorry. What happened?
Every call is different. You don't have the same call twice. We have some repeat callers who we've formed connections with them, and we just are there to support and encourage them on their walkway to recovery.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm really glad to hear that. You know, it's refreshing when someone calls and wants to share a great thing that's happened in their life. That's what we're here for. There's never been a warm line that's specifically to address issues of substance use disorder. One of the most important parts of the CARES warm line is that we listen with love, we validate feelings, and we empathize. And if you can't get that where you are, you can get that when you call the CARES warm line.
Good afternoon, CARES Warm Line. This is Steve speaking.
Can't keep a job. I keep going to jail. I just can't get it right. I need help.
People call into the warm line so they can get support. We have people call into the warm line to be encouraged. People call into the warm line just to have somebody to listen to, somebody they can talk to, and somebody that will listen. They know they can call the CARES warm line because we're not here to judge. They're talking to somebody who have lived experience that has been through what they're going through.
Hey man, your story sounds so much like mine. I can totally relate to what you're saying. If you don't mind, I'd love to share, my experience with it. Somebody calls up and they are looking for support and their story is similar to mine, and I can offer that support. I can be that light. It's pretty awesome. No one can tell someone what their recovery path is. It's personal. The CARES Warm Line gave me an opportunity to hold up that individual's choice. The breaking point for me to find recovery was I found myself homeless, without a job. I felt that I'd burned every bridge that I'd built. There was not a recovery support line available to me when I was finding my way to recovery and wellness. But it would have been nice to have somebody there, to know that there was somebody that I could call or text and find some support. We say that connection is the opposite of addiction. And I realized as I progressed in my recovery that those connections were really never severed. The only barriers that I had were the ones that I put up myself.
I came out of college and I didn't really know what to do with my life. And I came from a household that used drugs. And when times got really bad for me and I really didn't know what to do, I started using drugs and alcohol. And when it got more than what I can handle, then it really allowed me to now experience homelessness. It allowed me to be able to do things that I wasn't happy about doing. I had 4 kids, and so it wasn't easy trying to take care of a household using drugs. I thank God for everything that he's done for me to help me rebuild back that household.
I started using when I was about 16 years old. I successfully used from the age I was 16 to the age of 25. I used drugs for 24 years, hard drug use. My addiction spiraled out of control. I was arrested 8 times, and my oldest son, he was in one pod while I was in the other. My life was completely out of control and completely unmanageable, and I needed something greater than myself to reach down and do something for me that I could not do for myself. That's why I want to do what I'm doing, because I fight for his right to recover also. Not only mine, but his also.
The thing that turned me around and caught my attention, that knew I had reached bottom and I knew that I needed help, was one particular day, me and my childhood friend was shooting drugs, and this particular day he OD'd and died. I didn't. Went to his funeral, and before the processional started, I walked up to the casket and looked at his body. And while I was standing there, I heard a still small voice tell me, say, Steve, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, you're going to be lying in that casket next. And that's what it took to scare me straight out of 27 years of heroin addiction.
While I was in my addiction, I was a functional addict for the most part. I still had the nice house and the nice cars and money in my account, and I was married, but it was beginning to spiral out of control. The state of Georgia wanted to give me 10 years in prison, and that's when I woke up and said, I need to do something different in life. It's been amazing. I actually am living a life that I once only dreamt about having. I wish that we would have had this service available when I was seeking recovery.
My turning point was actually when I was sitting incarcerated and my life was headed downhill. I did make bad choices that landed me to almost serving 40 years in prison.
My experience in active addiction caused me to ostracize from my family. I had stolen a car, my family had disowned me. I got to the point in my life where I had to find something different. I found that recovery is possible, but not only that it's possible, but that it's wonderful. Because of the many challenges, grief disorder, I lost 2 children, I lost my home, I had an abusive marriage. I began to pick up pretty things, sparkling rocks, pretty pieces of glass, so that I could develop a kaleidoscope of my own, so that anytime that I'm challenged in my recovery, I could always turn and get a pretty picture that's different. If I had the CARES Warm Line when I was in my active addiction, I could have spoken to a peer that could have guided me sooner to my journey to recovery.
I knew my life was bad. Every morning I woke up and I told myself, I am not going to drink today. And every morning by 10 o'clock, I was drinking. I could not stop. I was in this cycle. I lost my dad. I lost some significant relationships. I was homeless. I was really desperate. So for me, getting sober and getting into recovery was kind of the last house on the street. I felt like it's either this or I'm going to die. And I'm asking y'all for help. So can you please help me? Please.
I've been getting into the drug scene, and I think I want to get out. And I need some help.
Our peer recovery coaches go through additional training into what they get in our CARES Academy. So they get training on ways to deal with people who are in crisis. Because sometimes people call and it's a little more than we can handle. If someone needs to call 911, we can transfer them to 911, or we can transfer them to the crisis and access line that we have here in Georgia.
Georgia Crisis and Access Line. This is Larry, licensed clinician. Are you calling for services, for information, or are you in a crisis?
We try to de-escalate the crisis over the phone. And if we're not able to do that, then we can also dispatch mobile teams, which is a mobile clinician and a care consultant, somebody who is a paraprofessional that can go out and actually talk with a person who's in crisis and de-escalate the situation on the scene, and also connect them to services. If the CARES Warm Line is on the phone with somebody and it turns out that they're actually in crisis, then they can warm transfer that caller to GCAL, meaning that they will actually stay on the line with the individual. They will reach out to GCAL. GCAL will pick up the phone. The CARES Warm Line folks will stay on the phone with that caller until the GCAL clinician is available to help with that crisis. Here at GCAL, we are absolutely thrilled that the CARES Warm Line is available. It's a wonderful referral source for people who are potentially being discharged from a CSU, and they want that ongoing support that they can access by no matter where they are in the state of Georgia. Maybe it's difficult for them to physically get to their therapist or their program, but they can always pick up the phone and talk to somebody who knows exactly what it's like to be in their shoes. We're absolutely thrilled to be working with the CARES Warm Line that has been sponsored by the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse. It's even more pertinent now with the opioid crisis that the whole country is experiencing. It is just really phenomenal to have this resource available.
The CARES Warm Line is made possible through a contract with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. They came to us and said, we heard you talking about the idea of a warm line and we're interested. They loved the idea. They thought that this is really a way to reach a lot of people, especially with this opiate crisis, that we can target those communities that are affected by that. And so they gave us a lot of leeway in developing it and have been very supportive.
We can create opportunities for wellness along the continuum. So recovery is supported by connections. It's really not about abstinence. It's about the things that people can connect to that helps them to get better. The CARES Warm Line is a perfect example of how that works. Somebody seeking recovery or somebody who is in recovery but wants to maintain their recovery, you can actually call and talk to a peer, someone who has specialized training to use their lived experience to help the individual on the other side of that line.
How can I support you in helping you to feel better?
I just feel so much better now after talking to you. I feel like I can really get through this. I feel like I'm bigger than my addiction.
The opposite of addiction is connection. If we can make that connection with somebody, that means a whole lot. Just to have somebody that you can pick up the phone and talk to.
Okay, great. Well, I feel better now that I have somebody who's been through what I'm going through.
I would like them to know that they are talking to somebody with lived experience on what they're going through. And I can relate with them 100%.
I'm just ready to get my life together.
I can see that they
become inspired to make a life-changing decision. And when they say that this call really helped them, that's a great fulfillment for me.
It's nice to know that I can talk to somebody that knows what I'm going through.
Some people say you gotta hit rock bottom. We do not believe that. The elevator gets off at every floor. Whatever floor you decide to get off on, we're here to support that. So we're here for good days, bad days, and okay days. So that person that went through treatment 3 times, he didn't make it to 4. That's the most important thing.
A lot of people in the comments, Beverly, Doreen said, just amazing. Somebody said phenomenal video. Just so they're flooding it with all these positive responses. So thank you for that video, Beverly.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for all your positive comments. I really appreciate that. So, I am Beverly Ragland, as I've said before, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means for me, it's been over 22 years since I used drugs or alcohol or succumbed to my diagnosis of depression, anxiety, and grief disorder. I speak my recovery out loud because I believe in the benefit of sharing my recovery experience to inspire others to seek long-lasting quality recovery. And I want to be a beacon of hope. My recovery has afforded me the opportunity to be present for my family, my church, and my community. It's due to my recovery that I was selected as the program manager for the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse CARES Warm Line. I'm on the board of directors for the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, and I pastor a church. I'm a Bachelor of Business Administration, a clinical supervisor, a CAC, a CPS, MH, and a CARES. I have more alphabet behind my name than I have name. I acquired and used my training to support others in their pathway to long-term recovery. Like you've heard before, I have a kaleidoscope analogy when I speak about my recovery. I've referenced the many jewels of my recovery kaleidoscopes. Jewels I can realign when I don't have the picture I need when life is challenging. The jewels include God, my family, treatment, therapy, medication, 12-step recovery, not to mention a host of cheerleaders that feed into my recovery journey. I live my recovery today, hoping to be a jewel in someone else's recovery, someone else's life. I'm in recovery, but that doesn't mean I'm free from all of my addictions. Just ask Amazon Prime. So, how many of you are familiar with, have heard about the CARES Warm Line? How many have used it or referred someone to it? It is a non-clinical, non-emergency opportunity to call or text a trained recovery coach for free peer support services. We're open from 8:30 in the morning until 11 p.m., 365 days of the year. So you guys saw the video about the CARES Warm Line, and I told you a little bit about my wellness journey because it's important that you know a key component of peer support or recovery coaching is sharing our lived experience. Recovery coaches are people in long-term recovery who are committed to continued wellness for ourselves as well as for our peers. At the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse, we are CARES, certified peer specialists, trained in the area of addictive disease. Some of the recovery coaches are also certified peer specialists for mental health. We also have a special endorsement training to provide direct peer services. So, why was the CARES Warm Line created? Let me tell you a little bit about Corey's story. Corey was a 21-year-old, fun-loving kid. His mom described him as having a servant's heart. He was caught up in the all too familiar cycle of drug-related incarceration and release. Neil Campbell, the executive director for the Georgia Council, was following his story through a reporter and received a call one evening that Corey lost his battle with opiates. Corey was seen in an ED, released, cleared of a heroin overdose. He was released without any recovery connections. He returned to an empty house, tried calling his mom. She was out of town and out of range. Like so many of us in active addiction, our only contacts are either people using or selling drugs. A dealer delivered a lethal dose of fentanyl to Corey's home, where he used, overdosed alone, and died. Neil decided that it should be a place where peers could call for a healthy connection, for a hope shot. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities heard about it and saw the need. The Georgia Council and DBHDD launched the first ever telephone peer support service specifically for substance use disorder. Corey's mom attended the launch of the Warm Line on November 15th of 2017. She witnessed what her son's story and countless other stories inspired. She gave us a picture of Corey, and we use it to remember why we do what we do. So you learned about me and the CARES Warm Line. So put it in the chat. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. If you're CARES, shout it out. Dwayne, help me keep up with them. Let me know what they're putting there.
I got
Again,
you.
everybody welcome.
I think they're typing away. Sandra's CARES 21. Penny Foskey, CARES 18. Lucy Todd, CARES 39. Barry Henson, CARES 38. The best CARES. I'm a CARES 38. Larnie McCarver, CARES 26. Shane, CARES 32. Greg, 40. Oh my gosh, it's rolling now. I
Wow.
can't keep up.
I haven't heard CARES 11. That's the Stormtroopers. We're the best. Great, guys. Thank you so much. Please continue to put in the chat who you are, what you do, and again, what CARES you're from. Thank you again. And again, welcome. So now it's time for our icebreaker. And I'm going to need a little help from Dwayne. And I need 2 volunteers to share your video. So Dwayne, if they'll put in the chat who's going to share, and you just pick those 2 people, and you're going to share your video, and we're going to allow you to be our, I don't want to call you guinea pigs, but the subject of our icebreaker. So whenever he shares their videos, I want everyone to take a look at our volunteers and answer these questions one at a time. And I will read them, I will ask them. And we'll take a look and see who's right. So as soon as we got, okay, so who do we have for volunteers?
All right, we got Robbie coming on. I need one more volunteer. Let's see if anybody in the chat. Who is this? This is Amanda. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for volunteering.
So let's see. There we go.
And we're going to get to see what you guys look like. Yay.
All right, Amanda and Robbie, you are now panelists, so you should be able to share your video. There we go. There goes Robbie.
Hey, Robbie.
And then we got Amanda.
Hey, Amanda, thank you so much for volunteering. So the way this icebreaker works is I'm going to ask the question, and then you guys are going to put in the chat, and we're going to try to keep up and kind of count. This is kind of not scientific, but we're going to put in the chat, and we're going to see who gets the most votes for what, okay? So you guys, who do you think is the best cook? Robbie or Amanda? Put it in the chat.
Let's see what we got. I got Robbie so far. Robbie again. Robbie. Dang, Amanda. Somebody.
I mean, I'm from New Orleans.
Uh-oh. Oh, now I got Amanda. They heard that New Orleans and now they're flooding. Now we got Amanda.
Okay, time's up. So we're gonna see. So who got the most votes before Amanda said she was from New Orleans? I need that gumbo. Where's that recipe?
I got you.
I would say Amanda got the most votes for that. Once she said that New Orleans thing, it just kept going.
Okay,
So,
now, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, now I was born in Macon, Georgia, so I grew up cooking.
All right. Okay. So tell us, Amanda, are you a great cook?
I love to cook. It's one of the things I do. That's one of my kitchen therapy is what I call it. I do red beans and rice. I do gumbo. I do all sorts of stuff. I bake every Christmas and Thanksgiving, and we do big spreads. So yeah,
Well, they picked
absolutely.
right then. Okay, so we're going to go to our next question. This was a little touchy. Somebody may not want to answer this or say, but anyway, who's in a committed relationship? Robbie, Amanda, y'all put it in the chat. Who do you guys think is in a committed relationship?
Larnie, Dudley, they say Amanda. They must know Amanda. Ashley says Amanda. Penny says Amanda. Sabrina says Amanda. I think they're pairing the fact that she's a good cook with she can keep them. She could keep a significant other. Maybe that's how they're doing that. That we got both. Lucy Todd says Robbie. Vanya says neither. I haven't heard that one yet.
Okay, so time's up for that one, guys. So Amanda, seems like you got the most votes. Is that true for you too? Okay, all right. Well, let's keep it rolling. Here's Robbie's turn, I think. Which one of these two has the nicest car? Put it in the chat, guys.
Robbie. Vanya says both. Vanya's playing neutral today. Okay, Robbie. Everybody's saying
Okay, Robbie, everybody thinks she's kind of sporty there. So do you have the nice car? What do you have?
Robbie has no car.
Look at that.
Well, I guess you can't judge a book by its cover, huh?
But I do, when I do drive, I drive my mom's car, which is really, really nice, so.
Well, that counts. Y'all did pretty good. Which one of these two peers owns their own home? How are we doing? Put it in the chat.
Amanda, we got people with the laughing emoji in there. Amanda, somebody says neither. Amanda Williams said neither. Vanya says neither.
Okay, I give up. So I think Amanda was the one. So Amanda, do you own your own home?
Well, when we finish paying mortgage on it, we will.
That counts. That counts. Robbie, what about you?
I do not.
You'll get there. You will get there. Okay. Which one of these two is the smartest? Is Robbie the smartest or Amanda the smartest?
Vanya says both. Both are smart. Both. We're getting flooded with both. Larnie says Switzerland. Have no idea what that means. But everybody's saying both.
Great. Okay, so the last one on this slide, who's the funniest?
Amanda Williams says Amanda. Penny says Robbie. They say both. Robbie, both. Amanda, Robbie. We're getting a lot of Robbies this time.
You guys are really, really diplomatic. Really, really, really diplomatic. Okay, great.
Don said me.
So I really do appreciate our volunteers for participating. We have one final question, and this is the deal breaker. Which one of our volunteers is on medicated assisted treatment? How's that chat going?
That chat is not responding. Got a little touchy. They said, Lucy Todd says Amanda. Michael Karn says it doesn't matter. Sandra says it doesn't matter. Robbie and Amanda. Penny says not sure.
Okay. So we're not going to ask our panelists to confirm or deny this question. Thank you all so much for volunteering. Dwayne, you can stop sharing their screen.
All right.
Everyone, let's continue to use the chat and answer this. How eager were you to answer the question, who is on medication assisted treatment? Put it in the chat. Were you eager, not eager? And if you were not eager, tell us why.
I'm getting a lot of not eagers. It might take them a minute to write right. Oh, Lucy says that's personal, not eager because it doesn't matter, says Amanda. Because it's personal, says Ashley. So that's two people that say it's personal. James Lingo also said it's personal.
And you know what? The fact that we didn't get answers initially and the fact that everybody is not eager, that helps us to realize why we're here today. So let's talk about why we're here today. Our learning objectives is you'll be able to define peer support and identify the role and the importance of a peer recovery coach. You'll be able to explain multiple pathways to wellness, including medication-assisted treatment. You'll be able to recognize the value of peer support to overcome the stigma historically associated with medication-assisted treatment. You'll be able to discuss the benefit of peers participating in the CARES Warm Line, medication-assisted recovery, assertive telephone outreach. So those are our objectives today. Use the chat again. So why is this workshop so important? Put it in the chat. Why do you think this workshop is important? Give us some feedback, guys.
Let's see what we got. Education about Matt. Barry Henson says truth, to educate others and learn, to be more informed. Doreen says the we. Education. Amanda,
right.
To be educated. A lot of education comments.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your feedback. Because this workshop is very, very important. It does have a purpose. And what we're going to be practicing today and what we're going to be understanding is the need for us to tear down barriers to wellness. Our goal is to understand the role of peer support in tearing down barriers to wellness. So can we identify any barriers to wellness for people we serve? Put it in the chat. Put down whatever you think the barriers are.
Amanda says stigma again. Dudley, Ashley, everybody's saying stigma. They're flooding the chat with stigma.
Wow, and that one really does stand out, but there are so many barriers to wellness, and that's truly why this workshop is important, because we do want to promote wellness in the work that we do. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing.
They also said criminal record, funds, judgment from the recovery community, economic strife.
Wow. All fantastic, fantastic reasons and barriers. And I'm glad that we understand that, because if we know the obstacles and the barriers that are before us, then we can easily devise and strategize to come up with ways to overcome them. And one of the things that we'll be talking about today is peer support. So what is peer support or recovery coaching? Broadly defined, peer support refers to a process through which people who share common experiences or face similar challenges come together as equals to give and receive help based on the knowledge that comes through shared experiences. It includes mutuality, lived experience, and empowerment. That's important to know. And successful recovery is driven by fostering hope, person-driven actions, following varied pathways, embracing holistic wellness, wellness all over, mind, body, and soul, peer support, positive connections, culture, addressing stigma, identifying strengths and responsibilities, and promoting respect. These are all wonderful, wonderful principles that drive successful peer support and recovery coaching. And that's the work we do. See, our work is different, Let's talk about our work as peer specialists. It really is different. Peer support is an evidence-based practice. A peer specialist is a person who's walked the path of recovery from substance use disorder and or mental illness, and is employed or volunteers to assist others in their journey to recovery. Peer specialists promote hope through positive self-disclosure in demonstrating that recovery is possible. Yes, we do recover. Yes. Now, we value the work of other professionals supporting our peers on their pathways to wellness, but the truth of the matter is that we may have other certifications, but when we're doing peer specialist work, we can't identify as being licensed or certified clinical providers, sponsors, or clergy. We do our best work when we stay in our lane. Stay in our lane do's, and there are a lot of do's. I'm just going to mention a few. And we encourage hope, optimism, and healthy living. We share our lived experience. That's so important. We encourage peers to identify obstacles to recovery and to develop recovery strategies. We link our peers to the recovery community and other resources. Those are some do's that we do as we do our work as peer specialists. And there are some stay in our lane don'ts. As peer specialists, we should not impose abstinence as the only true recovery. Guide someone through the 12 steps. We should not focus on problems and trauma issues instead of recovery solutions. We should not diagnose or provide counseling. We should not promote any particular church or faith belief. And there's a list of don'ts, but those are just a few. So the bottom line is wellness is the key. Understanding the value of holistic wellness is so important to the work we do. If you look at the PowerPoint, you'll see that pretty colors. I'm excited already. That wellness is multifaceted. So these are just the general areas. They talk about the environment, emotion, financial, social, spiritual, occupational, physical, and intellectual. So if you guys will put in the chat some of the things that you do in any of those areas that help to promote wellness in your lives and that you encourage our peers to participate in to promote wellness in their lives. Put it in the chat for me, please.
Physical exercise, says Lucy Todd. It's the only one that I've gotten so far. For me, it would probably be spiritual, physical, and definitely environmental. Dudley says the arts, photography, meditation, we got social connections, meditation, spiritual, medication, journaling, emotional.
Wow. All of those things can fall anywhere on this multiple dimensions of wellness chart. Wellness is so important. Wellness is really key. Thanks for participating in that chat, guys. So we acknowledge the fact that there are so many pathways to wellness and to support our peers. And we have to understand that wellness is due to self-determination, sometimes through peer support. Some people participate in mutual support groups or 12-step fellowships, faith, church, spirituality, fitness initiative, exercising. I go fishing myself, and sometimes I do a little bit of watercolor. Clinical interventions are important. And at the bottom of the list, and it's in a different color because it's so important, medical interventions, including medication-assisted treatment. So since we know there are so many multiple facets to wellness, our recovery coaches and peer specialists, we need to meet our peers where they are and not judge our peers' pathways to wellness. However a peer decides that they want to get moved toward wellness, we want to support that and encourage that. And that's what we do on the Warm Line. And it's so important that we embrace opportunities to connect with our peers receiving medication-assisted treatment. So guys, look at this kitty. Poor soul. Has anyone ever felt like him before? Like you're hanging off that limb, just hanging by a toenail, and others seem to have no clue whatsoever, or they're looking the other way? Put it in the chat if you've ever felt that way. So as peer specialists, we should assure our peers, including those receiving medication-assisted treatment, that they're not alone and they're not hanging by the toenail, that as peer specialists, we walk along with them. And we should support our peers, you know, when they're struggling and need someone to talk to. When they want to share triumphs as well as challenges. I feel so good when the recovery coaches on the Warm Line report that one of the peers is called in to talk about a victory or triumph in life. We want to support our peers when they're feeling lonely, depressed, and misunderstood, with love and with empathy. We want to support our peers when they need someone to talk to that's been right where they are. We want to support our peers, family members, and our allies, all of them, when they have questions about recovery. We don't want anyone feeling like that poor kitty that he's just hanging by a toenail and there's nobody to support him or knows where he's feeling or how he's doing today. So stigma hinders wellness, and we don't want stigma. No more stigma. We found that stigma hinders wellness, especially with those that are receiving medication-assisted treatment. These are some of the myths that are propagated to support the stigma around, or promote the stigma around MAT. Wow, they're just swapping one addiction for another. Total abstinence is the only way to recover. Oh, those folks don't have quality recovery. Look at them in the methadone line, standing in line waiting to get their fix. MAT is only for a short term. 12-step communities are not going to accept those that are receiving MAT. Providing MAT will only hinder their recovery. See, what we want to do is our goal is to end stigma of medicated assisted treatment through education, compassion, and embracing the true value of peer support. And this is how we do it. Peer support is an evidence-based practice supported by professional skill sets. We have skill sets, guys. We've learned how to do this work. On the CARES Warm Line, we use those skill sets to support our peers. And we're going to discuss some of those skill sets today. These are all tools for effective peer support. This is how we do it. Radical listening. It is said as humans, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. What if that reason is so that we can listen more than we talk? On the CARES Warm Line, we create and hold space for our peers to embrace, to express whatever they need to. Sometimes it just helps to know there's someone there on the other end of the line. On the Warm Line, we're completely comfortable holding that space and silence. Radical listening is key. It's important. Intentional peer support. On the Warm Line, we meet our peers where they are. We walk with them, build trust in relationships, continue to learn from each other. That's important, that mutuality. We remain teachable. We practice intentionally not knowing. We ask what happened instead of what's wrong. On the Warm Line and as peer specialists, we respect and honor each other's worldview and the unique pathway to health and wellness. Another approach that we use to support our peers is appreciative inquiry. We ask questions, we explore, we inquire about the things that are working in our peers' lives. We build on strengths and previous positive experiences to support our peers on their journey to wellness. We encourage our peers to look at a different perspective, because really what we focus on becomes our reality. There are multiple realities depending on perspective, and they're created in each and every moment. I think I want to kind of repeat that again. We encourage our peers to look at a different perspective because we focus on what we focus on becomes our reality. There are multiple realities depending upon perspective, and they are created in every moment. At every moment, we can choose to change our perspective and to create a new reality. And with our peers, we co-create and we walk with our peers. What we've learned is our peers and everyone will support what they help to create. Again, the value of appreciative inquiry is we encourage our peers to look at their assets versus their deficits, to focus on the things that we have and not the things that are missing. That's important about appreciative inquiry. We also employ motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is person-centered, evidence-based method of enhancing intrinsic motivations. Intrinsic, what's on the inside, intrinsic motivations to change by exploring and resolving ambivalence with our peers. Motivational interviewing follows our peers' thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. We use specific strategies and interventions that may facilitate the peers' movement toward exploration, change talk, problem recognition, resolving ambivalence, or the decision to change. The recovery coach guides the discussion towards the possibility of change. Motivational interviewing is a collaborative, person-centered forum to guide or elicit and strengthen motivation to change. That's an important point. There are 4 principles of motivational interviewing: expressing empathy, developing discrepancy, dancing with discord, and supporting self-efficacy. Why? So what's the benefit of motivational interviewing? It is truly a strategy for change. The true end goal of motivational interviewing is to enhance intrinsic inside motivation to change behavior. It's important to map a plan to assist peers in getting to the behavioral change they desire. We also want to have the ability to recognize what type of a conversation might push a peer off track and what type of talk or conversation will help move a peer toward the goal of change, their goal of change. So let me tell you about the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse CARES Warm Line Assertive Telephone Outreach Program. So the Georgia Council developed the Assertive Telephone Outreach opportunity because we identified the need and are eager to support the medication-assisted treatment community. And once we started, it rolled over to all of our peers. But what we want to really help with is because there's so much stigma associated with the medicated-assisted treatment community, is we want to help with stigma reduction and to promote inclusion and to give that opportunity for there to be a safety net. Our goal is to provide assertive telephone outreach support for peers receiving MAT. The recovery coaches on the Warm Line make weekly calls through the assertive telephone outreach initiative to the peers that volunteer to participate in that program. And that peer is assigned a designated recovery coach for a 6-week period, and they can enroll for the next 6 weeks for as long as they'd like to have that additional support. We use strength-based telephone engagements to support our peers on their recovery journey. So that's about our assertive telephone outreach initiative. And y'all saw the video about the CARES Warm Line, and truly everybody can call the CARES Warm Line, whether it's a peer, a family member, or an ally. But in addition to the incoming calls and texts that we receive, we do have this assertive telephone outreach initiative that a peer can fill out a JOT form and be assigned a recovery coach for a designated weekly call from a recovery coach. So could someone put in the chat? Put it in the chat. What do you think would be the benefit of having an opportunity to participate in the assertive telephone outreach initiative, especially if it's a peer that's receiving MAT or any peer?
Accountability, says Lucy Todd. And Robbie wanted to share with the group that she's a member of the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers class of 2020. But Lucy Todd says accountability. Sabrina says support and encouragement. Dudley says knowing they matter. That's really important.
Wonderful. And it's easy to enroll in the assertive telephone outreach initiative. Just call the CARES Warm Line, and one of the recovery coaches will send a JOT form that you'll fill out and say, this is the day and the time that I want to participate. And a recovery coach will reach out to you, and y'all will schedule your weekly meetings from there. And when I'm saying you, of course, everybody on this call, but anyone that we're serving, they have the opportunity to participate in assertive telephone outreach through the Georgia Council. So we're kind of winding down. I didn't quite talk slow enough, but we're going to see how much participation I can get from the rest of you. So what are the takeaways for today? Well, the first thing is, and I hope we heard it enough and we hear it enough, is we do recover. And it is so important that we connect with our peers that are receiving medicated assisted treatment. We've discussed the stigma around those that are receiving medicated assisted treatment. And because we understand the stigma, then we certainly want to reach out, especially to help them to understand that they too recover and can have quality, long-lasting recovery. We've also been able to, after leaving this, hopefully everyone can define peer support and identify the role and importance of a peer recovery coach. We've talked about and we've explained the varied and multiple pathways to recovery, and you saw the diagram that showed spiritual, economic, and all those ways that we do get better. But one of the important things is one of the pathways that is so often ignored is that pathway of receiving medication-assisted treatment. Through this webinar, I hope that we all recognize the value of peer support to overcome stigma historically associated with MAT. MAT has been just not recognized or not respected for a long time, and we need to change that stigma. We need to have the talk and to be able, those that are receiving that, to be able to speak it out loud and not have any hesitance because of the stigma associated with it. So as peer specialists, as recovery coaches, we need to continue to do whatever we can to reduce and help our other peers overcome the stigma historically associated with MAT. So again, the other takeaway is hopefully we'll be able to discuss the benefit of peers participating in the CARES Warm Line Medication Assisted Recovery, MAR, assertive telephone outreach. Because as peer specialists, we're not doing treatment, we're doing recovery. So that's why it's the MAR assertive telephone outreach. And we've talked about a lot of things today. We've had a lot of fun and we've had open discussion. But the bottom line is that the work that we do is so important, and that we have to recognize that this is an evidence-based opportunity to support our peers and to support each other. What we do is important, and we are a complement to the things that are done in the clinical arena, in the clergy arena, in the sponsorship arena. And it's again, we have to continue to practice what our lane is and understand our lane, because when we do our work the way it should be done, then we're promoting and giving our peers the opportunity to get and stay well. The phone number for the CARES Warm Line, if you don't have a CARES Warm Line card in your wallet, take a picture of the slide. This is the number, 844-326-5400. Open 8:30 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, every day, holidays, every day. And we're seeking to get 24 hours. That's what we're seeking. That's what we're hoping for. On behalf of the CARES Warm Line team and the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse, I again want to say thank you so much for participating in this training. Does anyone have any questions or comments? And please put in the chat any questions or comments that we can discuss, because as I said from the beginning, this is not my webinar. This is our webinar. And as we put things in the chat and we create opportunities to discuss them, and I'm sure that Dwayne can allow you to speak. If you have something that you want to raise your hand and share about. Again, thank you so much. And please put any questions or comments or raise your hand in the chat. Because remember, connection truly is the opposite of addiction. And I thank you for allowing me to connect with you today. Go ahead, Dwayne. Let's see what we got going.
All right, I just promoted Margaret to a panelist so that she could share her experience. If you could, Margaret, unmute yourself and you could share with the group.
Hey family, I'm Margaret. I'm a person in long-term recovery. and I'm CARES 4, and I heard you guys talking about you guys was the best, but CARES 4 is the best, was the best, and still is the best. This webinar was just so awesome. I listened to it on my phone because I was driving. And I think that this is so important that, you know, that we just continue to learn, to be educated, reminded to stay in our lane, reminded that if we didn't break it, we can't fix it. We don't need to try to fix everything. That's the only thing that I wanted to say. Thank you guys so much. I honor you guys. Thanks again, Miss Beverly. And thank you also, Dwayne.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to share?
Please do. Share with each other. We had this time, we're gathered together. Let's share with each other. Let's learn from each other. Let's grow with each other.
All right, there we go. Hands are being raised because we're still trying to get this hour and a half so we can keep the integrity of the webinar going. So I'll call on Catherine. And Catherine should be popping up anytime, as well as Sabrina.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Hey, Catherine.
Hey, Miss Beverly, thank you so much for your beautiful voice. Oh my gosh, I can listen to you talk all day. I did not know that we needed to use, as a recovery coach, I need to use MAR, medicated assisted recovery. I've been saying medicated assisted treatment for about 2 years. So I'm really grateful you put that in there. And I'm grateful you took the time to do this with us today.
Catherine, let me get some clarity on that, because yes, our peers are receiving medicated assisted treatment, but when we're interacting with our peers, we are providing medicated assisted recovery because that's the profession that we're in. We are recovery specialists. Thank you for acknowledging that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Catherine. And Vanya had a question for you in the chat, Beverly. How many calls does the warm line average?
Good gracious alive. We receive sometimes well over 4,000 calls. I'm short staffed. We're going to be hiring 3 recovery coaches soon. We manage to gather at least 17 to 1,800 calls per month with the staff that we have in place, and that's 5 recovery coaches. So I commend the team. They are awesome. I mean, if they could, they would grab them all, but I have to encourage self-care just as I would encourage anyone that's on this webinar today, that we need to take care of ourselves. But yes, on average, we can get up to we can capture up to 1,800 calls. I've seen times that we've captured at least 2,300 calls. So there's a lot, and there's a lot that we can't get, but we're working to getting them both. And I'm looking forward to our 3 additional staff members starting on November 1st. I'm very pleased about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that question.
And Dudley, you're next, and then we'll go Sabrina.
Hi, all. My name's Dudley. I'm a person in long-term recovery, a member of CARES 28, the best, of course, and also a person whose pathway included MAPMAR a number of years back when it wasn't popular to say that. I'll just say that much. And, you know, I speak out now because of the stigma associated with MAPMAR. I've worked with counsel in that area, and I also am a member of a few of us have a peer group that meets every Tuesday at noon on that's a MAPMAR dedicated safe space for us to gather and talk. So we've all got to face this. I mean, some of the 12-step processes are kind of down on the use of things like methadone and Suboxone, and yet, just like having to have insulin, though some of us with our disease can't function without it. It's a long-term treatment program. So we've got to fight the stigma. Thank you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for being honest and sharing your lived experience, Dudley. We really appreciate that. That helps a lot to reduce the stigma when someone's able to raise their hand and say, I got well doing that. And it gives other people the opportunity to say, well, maybe that's a pathway I can explore. Or if they've explored that pathway, they may say, well, maybe I should say that I did that because somebody else might need that inspiration. Again, Dudley, thank you so much.
And I really appreciate the council's focus on the Matmar area now in recent years.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you, Dudley. Andrea Serrano asked, where'd it go? Keep getting messages. How does one find out if their application for the warm line is being considered after having been submitted?
And I was typing in the chat for Andrea, but email me at my email address. Everybody's at gasubstanceabuse.org, but I'm putting it in the chat for you, but email me and I'll follow up on your application.
All righty, and now it's on Sabrina. You got to unmute yourself, Sabrina. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. You're good.
Awesome. So my name is Sabrina. I'm KARES 37. I am a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is I haven't found it necessary to use any mood or mind-altering substances for 8 years. I work at the same facility that I got well at. Recovery has afforded me to just be an amazing mother, leader in my community, and be an example to all the ladies here. And I will say that working with ladies that is MAT, MAR, MAR. I love the education about the MAR, by the way. Definitely the stigma is around that. So, my job here as a peer specialist is just to help support them and just support that, because it's important to people that are struggling and coming in. And I've watched so much success come from this. So I being here at this facility, watching people come in, watching them leave and titrate down and actually use it to get to where, the next chapter of their life where they're successful. So I don't know. I have a lot of great things to share about this. And I'm with Dudley, like back in the day, or back even, I've been in and out of recovery. I got a lot of white chips ever since I'm like 17 years old. So the stigma is real, because like the old timers and back in the day, they're like, you're not sober. That is not the way. No. And it was just a big no. So today, being a KARES and being able to watch this beautiful thing happen from people that actually use this and get to the next place in their life is just amazing. And thank you so much, Beverly, for this training in this webinar. You're full of education. I love the video that you showed, and I look forward to being in future webinars, in your future webinars.
Great. Thank you so much for saying that. And, guys, I really want to acknowledge one of the chats that, I'd really like to read it, Vanya, if you don't mind. And it says, I have a recovery friend that came from New York using methadone, coming to meetings, and I used to hound him about it, but I stopped. Now he's no longer on methadone and he's celebrating 6 years. And what came to mind, I said, when we know better, we do better. Yay. And by you sharing that, there may be somebody out there that hears us, or that we may know someone that we need to say to them, that medicated assisted treatment leads to medicated assisted recovery. And thank you so much for putting that in the chat. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. And yeah, when you talk to your friend, I don't know if you'll say I mentioned the fact that you did what you did, that you celebrated 6, but say that we're all supporting him and we're so proud and happy for him.
Absolutely. And let's at least make it to 12:50, and I'll be satisfied with that. So if anybody else wanted to share maybe a story, anything regarding the topic today. I can admit now that going into the CARES Academy, I wasn't, I didn't know, I'll say I was ignorant to it. So, because I have a 12-step background in my particular home group, like it was frowned upon, medicated assisted treatment. And it wasn't until CARES, and then I got the science of it from Riley and George, and they really broke it down and it made so much sense. And I felt really bad because, this is a pathway of recovery. And my way of thinking, if I were to spread that thought process, I could be, spreading a message that could be killing hundreds of people that need that medication. So I'm glad that my thought process was altered, and I had to first become open-minded, but I'm glad that, I can realize that now. And it's awesome. I really enjoyed reading Vanya's message in the chat. Let me see if someone else said something. Oh, we got somebody raising their hand. Doreen, there we go. Let me make Doreen a panelist. There you go. You're muted still.
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Doreen. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is that I haven't had any mood or mind-altering substance for 14 years, 10 months, and about 11 days to be exact. I just like to share my recovery out loud, and I wanted to commend the video at the beginning. Like, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I see that some other new people are on there, but there's a lot of people that are on there who I have worked with, who I have gone out and all that stuff where we saw the people on the sidewalks walking and talking to people, where we were like really did some grassroots walking around talking about the upcoming things with Georgia Council. And I'm grateful because I was able to be a part of, if it wasn't, it was medicated assistance information, it was about transgender information, and it was good that we had a diverse staff, that we were able to go out into the community and go out into the council, go out to the Capitol, go out to different organizations, go out to different regions. And I think the diversity is really key, and it's an important factor. Even just calling on the warm line, where we are able to get different people with their own recovery. And when I'm able to share it out loud, and then when you see me as a peer, but I also get to share my part of my story too, because I'm coming to you with a profession, but it's like the peer is on the same eye level to where we're able to share some things that happen with us, and we don't have to be like CACs and the clinical people who were used to not being able to share their personal experiences. So that's where I just think when it says we do recover, and all of the different aspects of what we embrace are really important. And Bev, the video, Dwayne, whoever's responsible for putting that, I was in tears over here. I was like, wow, it really embraces and embodies from our CEO all the way through the organization and interacting with all the different cares. It just showed the diversity of we do recover, and we recover out loud. I'm a part of 12 steps, but I believe in the beach. I believe in prayer. I'm part of several 12 steps. So I'm glad when I got here, I was already embraced being able to go into different 12-step places. Like, I didn't discriminate when I got here into recovery. I didn't say, oh, this had a different A in front of it, I wasn't going. I was like, where's the meeting? So that's a big part of my recovery. But people who I interacted with, and thank God the people who I was attracted to were diverse and going to all different kind of meetings, no matter what 12-step it was a part of. We do CODA, we do, grief share, I was coming in here recovering from a lot of things. So I just embrace and grateful for the diversity. And that video showed a wide variety of that. I mean, seeing Patty and Jody and Bertrand, a young person in recovery, you know, just seeing all of that was very, it just touched my heart. So I appreciate you guys for, and I'm glad I joined the webinar today. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I really, really want to thank everybody for participating in this webinar, for all of your feedback and your honest sharing, and for being open and putting yourselves out there. Sometimes it's not always easy to share your recovery experience, but your recovery experience, I shouldn't say but, your recovery experience is so valuable. Somebody may be walking down that road not sure that they can overcome those things. So again, thank you so much for sharing that. I don't want to end this webinar without mentioning the fact that the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse also has virtual all recovery meetings, and they are at 10 o'clock and 7 o'clock, 365 days of the year. If you go to the Georgia Council webpage, it'll tell you how to log on to those virtual all recovery meetings. And we have volunteers that host those meetings, and that's another compliment to anyone's recovery. And I hope that you would share with anyone that you're working with, or anyone that you're sharing recovery with. Again, this, your feedback, your participation has truly, truly been awesome. I've learned a lot from you, and I truly appreciate you being here. And, you know, again, connection is the opposite of addiction. And I so appreciate the opportunity to connect with every last one of you today. Dwayne, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll let Robbie take us out. I know he's been wanting to share. So Robbie, if you want to, you have the opportunity to share, and you'll be our last volunteer, but I don't want to leave you out. So.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yep.
Thank you, Dwayne, and thank you, Beverly, for this awesome webinar. One of the things that stuck out for me was the peer specialist, the CARES line don'ts. And I kind of equated it to when I was a substance abuse counselor and a CARES at the same time. And it was just so difficult for me at times working in the capacity of a substance abuse counselor and not being able to work in a capacity of peer support. I did decide not to renew my counseling certificate. Instead, I've kept up my CARES certificate. I live in South Carolina now. I guess I have a question. Can they call from any state, or does it just have to be from Georgia?
Very, very good question. They can call from any state. We have people that call from foreign countries. They can call, and it is free. I didn't say that enough, y'all. The CARES Warm Line is free, and you can call from any state. And the recovery coaches are busy getting as many calls as they can. And we've got new staff coming on board, and I'm very excited about that. Great question.
I'm so excited to hear that, because now I guess I'll get with you, Dwayne, at some point to possibly have some cards mailed to me. I am in the process of getting my International Peer Support Specialist certification. So I'm just really excited. This was just an awesome webinar. Beverly, you are absolutely wonderful. You are too, Dwayne. If the rest of my Atlanta family hears me, I love you guys so much. I miss you so much, but thank you so much for this webinar. I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to email you, Beverly and Dwayne.
All righty. Thank you, Robbie. And I see people are asking for the link to the video. I put it in there once. I'll drop it in there again. If y'all want to click on the video, you're able to see it. And that's pretty much it. Again, Larie's going to be sending out that, that CEU link at the end of the year, so you could submit all your CEUs and be reactivated or continue to be activated. So look out for that. In order to keep up with it, just make sure you know the month, the topic, and the panelists for each of your CEU trainings. For this one, the month is October. The topic is We Do Recover, and the panelist was the fantastic Beverly Ragland. So with that information, just look forward to seeing all of you in the future at different webinars. And thank you again, Beverly. And I will end it there. And I'll put the video and the link one more time. And you all have a great day. Thank you for doing this, Beverly. And thank you, everybody that volunteered. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.